The jungle doesn't care about your rank, your training, or how many medals decorate your dress uniform. It simply exists, vast and indifferent, waiting to swallow anyone foolish enough to underestimate it. I learned that lesson in the most painful way possible, and it changed everything I thought I knew about strength, loyalty, and what it truly means to lead. My name is Captain Daniel Cross, former Marine Force Recon, and this is the story of Operation Phantom Ridge, the mission where I lost my best friend, and discovered that sometimes the bravest thing a warrior can do is admit he was wrong. Before I continue, if you're finding value in this story, please hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. These real stories from the field need to be told, and your support helps me continue sharing them. Drop a comment below telling me what branch you served in, or if you're considering military service, what draws you to it. Now, let's get back to that jungle. We were deep in contested territory, 70 miles from anything resembling civilization. Our 8-man team had been inserted 4 days earlier with a straightforward objective: locate and destroy an enemy supply cache that was fueling attacks across the entire southern region. Intelligence indicated the cache was hidden in a cave system, beneath an abandoned temple complex, a place locals claimed was cursed. The locals were smarter than intelligence. My second in command was First Lieutenant Michael Santos, though everyone called him Saint. We'd gone through officer training together, deployed 3 times as a team, and saved each other's lives more times than either of us could count. If I had a brother, it was Saint, the man who knew what I was thinking before I spoke, who could read a tactical situation like he'd written the playbook himself. The rest of the team was equally solid. Staff Sergeant Tyrone Washington, our demolitions expert, could blow a door off its hinges or disarm a car bomb with the same casual precision most people use to tie their shoes. Corporal Jennifer Hayes handled communications and intelligence analysis, her mind processing information faster than our field computers. Sergeants Rodriguez, Kim, and Patterson rounded out the team, each bringing specialized skills that made us one of the most effective units in the theater. And then there was Private First Class Eric Ramos, the newest addition to our team. 23 years old, fresh from advanced training, eager to prove himself. The kid had talent and heart, but experience. That was something only time and missions could provide. We'd been moving through the jungle for 3 days, navigating terrain that seemed designed to kill you slowly. Humidity that turned your uniform into a second skin of sweat, insects that treated bug spray like seasoning, and vegetation so thick you sometimes couldn't see your own feet. Every step required concentration. One moment of carelessness and you'd step on a snake, trigger a trap, or simply vanish into a hidden ravine. The temple complex appeared on the 4th morning, emerging from the jungle like a forgotten memory. Stone structures covered in vines and moss, ancient carvings worn smooth by centuries of rain and neglect. It was beautiful in a haunting way, a reminder that empires rise and fall while the jungle simply continues. Hayes, get me aerial surveillance of the perimeter, I ordered as we established our observation post 200 meters from the target. Washington, I want explosive assessments on all potential entry points. Saint, you're with me for reconnaissance. The team moved with practiced efficiency, each member knowing their role without needing detailed instructions. That's what separated good units from great ones: trust, built through shared hardship and countless hours of training. Saint and I approached the temple, using a dry stream bed for cover. Through my binoculars, I could see signs of recent activity: disturbed soil, fresh machete cuts on vegetation, cigarette butts that hadn't yet decomposed. Someone had been here, and recently. What do you think? Saint whispered, his eyes scanning the same details I'd noticed. I think intelligence was right for once, I replied. The cache is here. Question is how many hostiles are guarding it. We spent 2 hours in observation, documenting everything. No visible sentries, no obvious defensive positions, but that didn't mean anything. The best defenses are the ones you don't see until it's too late. Back at the observation post, we reviewed our findings with the team. Hayes had pulled satellite imagery, showing heat signatures inside the temple complex. At least 6 individuals, possibly more, could be civilians, Hayes suggested. This area has scattered settlements. Maybe someone's using the temple for shelter. Or it's exactly what we think it is, Washington countered. 6 guards protecting a high-value asset. Numbers match the intelligence estimate. Saint studied the imagery. His expression troubled. Something feels off about this. The placement is too obvious, too convenient. If I were hiding a major supply cache, I wouldn't put it in the most obvious ancient temple in the region. I understood his concern. Saint had good instincts, probably better than mine if I was being honest. But we had our orders, clear intelligence and a timeline. Command wanted this cache destroyed before the enemy could redistribute the supplies. We go in at nightfall, I decided. Standard breach protocol. Washington plants charges, we secure the area, then blow it all to hell. In and out, minimal exposure. Saint nodded, but I could see the doubt in his eyes. He didn't argue though. That wasn't how we worked. Once a decision was made, we committed fully. The day crawled by with agonizing slowness. We rotated watch shifts, checked equipment, and mentally rehearsed the operation. Ramos was particularly nervous, cleaning his rifle for the 4th time, his hands betraying the anxiety his face tried to hide. First time is always the hardest, Saint told him during the afternoon watch. But you've got the best team in the Corps, backing you. Trust your training, trust us, and you'll do fine. The kid nodded, drawing strength from Saint's calm confidence. That was one of Saint's greatest gifts as a leader. He could steady people with just his presence, make them believe they were capable of more than they thought possible. As darkness fell, we moved into position. The jungle transformed at night, sounds amplifying, shadows deepening into absolute darkness. Our night vision equipment turned the world into shades of green, revealing what remained hidden to the naked eye. We approached from the north, the route that offered the most cover and the shortest distance to the main temple structure. Washington and Kim took point, checking for tripwires and pressure plates. Rodriguez and Patterson secured our flanks. Hayes monitored communications. Saint and I led the main element, with Ramos between us. The temple entrance loomed before us, a dark mouth leading into deeper darkness. Washington signaled all clear on explosive devices. Too clean, too easy. That's when everything went sideways. The explosion came from behind us, a massive detonation that lit up the night sky and sent shockwaves rippling through the trees. Our rear position, where we'd left our extraction equipment, had just been obliterated. Contact rear, Patterson's voice cracked over the radio. Multiple hostiles, estimate 20 plus, were cut off. Gunfire erupted from 3 sides simultaneously. Not 6 guards, not a simple supply cache. We'd walked into a carefully prepared ambush, and suddenly everything Saint had worried about made terrible sense. Fall back to the temple, I shouted. It was the only defensible position, the only place we might have a chance. Move, move, move. We ran, bullets snapping through the air around us, impacts kicking up dirt and stone. Hayes went down first, taking a round through her leg. Rodriguez grabbed her, hauling her toward cover even as he returned fire. Inside the temple, we found ourselves in a large chamber, multiple passages leading deeper into the complex. Ancient pillars provided cover, but also created blind spots. Washington immediately began assessing defensive positions, while Kim covered the entrance. How many? Saint demanded, helping Rodriguez get Hayes into cover behind a stone altar. At least 30, Patterson reported, breathing hard. Coordinated assault, professional movement. These aren't local militia. This is trained military. I pulled out my radio, trying to raise command. Static. Hayes had been carrying our primary long-range communications equipment, and her pack had taken damage in the firefight. Our backup radio had limited range, useless this deep in the jungle. We're on our own, I announced to the team. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Saint moved beside me, his face grim in the green glow of night vision. They knew we were coming. This whole thing was a setup. He was right. The intelligence, the timing, the perfect positioning of enemy forces. Someone had fed us false information, turned our own mission into a trap. The question was why, and more importantly, how we were going to survive. We need to assess our situation, Saint said, his voice steady despite the chaos. Ammo count, casualties, assets, figure out what we're working with. While the team conducted inventory, I examined our tactical situation. The temple offered decent cover, but limited escape routes. The enemy had superior numbers and controlled the exterior. Our extraction point was compromised, communications were down, and we had one wounded already. The assessment came back worse than I'd hoped. We had ammunition for maybe 2 sustained firefights, limited medical supplies, no way to call for help, and Hayes's leg wound, while not immediately life-threatening, would significantly slow any movement. Options, I asked Saint quietly, away from the others. We can try to hold here until dawn. Hope someone notices we missed our check-in and sends a recovery team. But that's at least 8 hours, and we'll be low on ammo long before then. Or we go deeper into the temple. These complexes usually have multiple entrances, back passages the original builders used. We find another way out. We might be able to slip past their perimeter. It was a gamble either way. Stay and fight with limited resources, or venture into unknown passages that might lead nowhere. I was about to make the call when Ramos spoke up. "Captain, I found something." He was examining the altar where we'd positioned Hayes. His fingers traced ancient carvings, and as he pressed certain symbols, a grinding sound echoed through the chamber. Part of the wall slid back, revealing a dark passage leading down. "Well, that makes the decision easier," Washington muttered, readying his weapon. The enemy was regrouping outside, their shouts growing louder. We had minutes at most before they pressed their assault. I made the call. "We go down, Washington. Rig the entrance with whatever explosives you have left. Buy us some time. Patterson, help Hayes. Kim, take point with night vision. Everyone else, standard column formation. We move fast and quiet." Saint grabbed my arm as the team began moving. "Cross, if this goes bad, it won't," I cut him off. But we both knew I was lying. The passage descended steeply, carved stone steps worn smooth by centuries of use. The air grew cooler, damper, carrying the smell of earth and ancient decay. Our night vision equipment struggled in the absolute darkness, turning everything into murky shapes and shadows. Behind us, Washington's charges detonated, sealing the entrance and buying us precious time. The explosion echoed through the passages, and for a moment, I wondered if we just trapped ourselves in a tomb. Kim led us deeper, navigating by instinct and thermal readings. The passage branched multiple times, creating a maze that would have been impossible to navigate without modern equipment. Ancient peoples had built this place as a sanctuary, a refuge. Now it was our only hope. We'd been moving for maybe 20 minutes when Kim held up his fist, signaling stop. Through my earpiece, his voice came in a whisper. "Multiple heat signatures ahead. Big chamber. Can't tell if they're hostile or what." I moved up to his position, using my scope to peer into the darkness. The passage opened into a massive cavern, and what I saw made my blood run cold. It wasn't a supply cache. It was a command center. Computers, communications equipment, tactical maps covering the walls, and standing in the center, coordinating with at least 15 soldiers, was a face I recognized from countless intelligence briefings. Colonel Viktor Kozlov, Russian Special Forces, a ghost who'd been operating in the region for years, training and equipping enemy forces, turning scattered insurgents into coordinated military units. Command had been trying to locate him for 3 years, and here he was, right in front of us. "Saint," I breathed. "We just stumbled onto something way bigger than a supply cache." He peered through his own scope, and I heard his sharp intake of breath. "If we can take him out, capture him, we could end operations across this entire region. This is the intelligence goldmine of the decade." He was right, but we were 8 soldiers, 1 wounded, low on ammunition, with no support and no way to call for help. The tactical odds were impossible. "We can't engage," I said, the words tasting like defeat. "We extract, get somewhere we can make contact, call in an airstrike or proper assault team. By then he'll be gone," Saint argued. "You know how these guys operate. They don't stay in one place long. This is our shot, maybe the only one we'll ever get." I looked at my team, Hayes, grimacing with pain but ready to fight, Washington, Rodriguez, Kim, Patterson, all watching me, waiting for orders, and Ramos, the rookie, his eyes wide but determined. Then I looked at Saint, my brother in all but blood, the man who'd saved my life more times than I could count, and I saw something in his expression that terrified me. Determination, bordering on obsession. The look of a man willing to sacrifice everything for the mission. "We extract," I said firmly. "That's an order, Lieutenant." For the first time in 3 years of serving together, Saint hesitated, then slowly, reluctantly, he nodded. We began backing away, moving carefully to avoid detection. That's when Ramos's rifle strap, worn and frayed from days in the jungle, snapped. The weapon clattered against stone, the sound impossibly loud in the cavern's acoustics. 15 pairs of eyes turned toward our position. "Contact," someone shouted in Russian. The cavern erupted in gunfire. We returned fire, falling back to a defensive position in the passage. Washington tossed a flashbang, giving us seconds to reposition. Rodriguez laid down suppressive fire, while Kim pulled Hayes to better cover. "Fall back to the last junction," I ordered. Controlled retreat. We moved in leapfrog fashion, each pair covering while the others retreated. Professional, textbook tactics, but we were outnumbered and outgunned, fighting in terrain that favored the defenders. That's when Saint made his decision. "Cross," he shouted over the gunfire. "Take the team and get out. I'm going to hold here, give you time." "Negative," I screamed back. "We leave together." "There's no time." He was already positioning himself behind a pillar, checking his ammunition. "You need 15 minutes to get clear. Get somewhere you can call for extraction." "I can give you that." "Saint, that's suicide." He looked at me then and smiled. That same calm, confident smile he'd used to steady Ramos earlier. "It's the mission, Cross. You know it is. Someone has to make the hard call." "No," I said. But the word came out broken. "Michael, please." He'd never told me to use his real name before. In 3 years it had always been Saint, but now, facing the end, he wanted to be remembered as himself. "Get them out, Daniel," he said quietly. "Get them home, and tell my family I was thinking of them." Before I could respond, he stepped into the passage, firing controlled bursts that drove the enemy back into cover. "Go," he roared. "That's an order, Captain." Washington grabbed my arm, physically pulling me back. "Sir, we have to move now." The team was already retreating, Hayes supported between Rodriguez and Patterson. Kim had point, navigating by memory and instinct. Ramos looked back, tears streaming down his face, but kept moving. The last thing I saw was Saint, standing alone in that passage, firing methodically at overwhelming odds. Then Washington pushed me around the corner, and he was gone. We ran through the temple passages, the sound of gunfire echoing behind us. Saint was buying us time with his life, and every second we wasted dishonored that sacrifice. We had to make it mean something. Kim found an exit on the eastern side of the complex, a collapsed wall that opened onto the jungle. We emerged into the pre-dawn darkness, moving as fast as Hayes's injury would allow. Behind us, the gunfire continued. Then, after what felt like hours but was probably less than 5 minutes, it stopped. The silence was worse than the guns. We pushed through the jungle for 2 hours, before finding high enough ground for our backup radio to reach friendly forces. The extraction helicopter found us 3 hours after that, pulling us out of hell and into the sky. Hayes survived, though she'd never serve in combat again. Rodriguez, Kim, Patterson, Washington, and Ramos all continued their military careers, each carrying the weight of that night in different ways. I submitted my after-action report, detailing everything: the ambush, the enemy command center, Colonel Kozlov's presence, and Saint's sacrifice. Command launched a massive operation 2 days later, but the complex was empty. Kozlov had vanished, along with his equipment and personnel. Saint's body was never recovered. They gave him a posthumous Medal of Honor. His family received the flag at Arlington, and I stood there in my dress blues, trying to find words to explain why their son, their brother, had died in a jungle 10,000 miles from home. But here's the twist, the part that still haunts me 15 years later. 3 months after Operation Phantom Ridge, I received an encrypted message through channels I didn't even know existed. No sender, no signature, just a string of coordinates and a single sentence: the intelligence was real. We needed someone to find the truth. I traced those coordinates. They led to a village, on the opposite side of the region from the temple complex. And when I checked satellite imagery from the night of our mission, I saw it. Another team, different nationality, raiding a compound at the exact same time we were fighting for our lives. They'd found the real supply cache, massive quantities of weapons, explosives, materials that would have fueled years of conflict, and they'd destroyed it all. While we were serving as the diversion, Saint hadn't died protecting us. He'd died protecting a mission he didn't even know he was on. Someone in command, someone with clearance above my level, had used us as bait, fed false intelligence to draw out Kozlov's forces, make them commit to defending an empty complex, while the real objective was hit elsewhere, and Saint, brilliant tactical mind that he was, had probably figured it out in those final moments. He'd seen the pattern, understood the deception, and still chosen to give us time to escape, because that's what leaders do. They carry the burden of impossible choices, so their people don't have to. I left the Marines 6 months later, couldn't stomach the idea of following orders from people who treated soldiers like chess pieces. Started teaching instead, training the next generation, trying to prepare them for the reality that war isn't noble or clean or simple. It's complicated, morally ambiguous, and sometimes the heroes die for reasons they'll never know. But here's what I learned, the lesson that Saint's death burned into my soul. Leadership isn't about being right or following orders blindly or achieving the mission at any cost. Real leadership is about making the hard choices while protecting the humanity of the people under your command. It's about knowing when to push forward and when to pull back, when to trust the intelligence, and when to trust your gut. I failed Saint that night. I saw his doubts about the mission, heard his concerns, and I overrode them because I was focused on objectives instead of people. A good leader balances mission and men. A great leader knows that sometimes the mission isn't worth the cost. If you stayed with me this far, thank you. These stories matter because they're real, because they remind us that behind every military operation are human beings making impossible choices with incomplete information. If this resonated with you, please subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell. Share it with someone who's served or someone considering service. Drop a comment telling me what lesson you've taken from this story. And if you're currently serving or thinking about enlisting, remember this. The hardest battles you'll fight won't be against enemy soldiers. They'll be against your own doubts, your own fears, your own tendency to follow orders without question. Develop your judgment, trust your instincts, and never, ever sacrifice your humanity on the altar of the mission. Saint taught me that. It cost him everything to deliver the lesson, but I've spent 15 years trying to honor it. The military will teach you tactics, weapons handling, and operational procedures, but it can't teach you wisdom. That comes from experience, from mistakes, from the nights you lie awake replaying decisions and wondering if you could have done something differently. I still see Saint in my dreams sometimes, still hear his voice telling me to get the team out, still wonder if there was another way, some brilliant tactical solution I missed that would have saved him while completing the mission. But I've come to accept that some questions don't have answers. Some losses can't be prevented, and sometimes the only thing you can do is learn from the pain, carry the memory, and try to do better next time. That's the real lesson of leadership. Not that you'll always make the right call, but that you'll learn from the wrong ones. Not that you'll save everyone, but that you'll never stop trying. Not that war is glorious, but that the people who fight in them deserve our respect, our support, and our commitment to never waste their sacrifices on meaningless objectives. Saint died believing he was protecting his team. In the end, maybe that's enough. Maybe the why matters less than the what, and the what was love. Love for his brothers and sisters in arms. Love for the mission he'd sworn to complete. Love for ideals worth dying for, even if the execution was flawed. I keep his dog tags on my desk now. They were mailed to me anonymously a year after the operation, worn and scorched but intact. I don't know who sent them or how they recovered them, but every morning when I sit down to teach, I touch those tags and remember the cost of leadership. Remember the weight of command. Remember that every order you give might be the last one someone hears. If you're in a position of leadership, military or otherwise, I challenge you to think about your saints, the people who trust you, who follow your orders, who believe in your judgment. Are you worthy of that trust? Are you making decisions based on ego or wisdom? Are you listening to doubts or crushing them under the weight of authority? Because someday, you might give an order that sends someone into danger, and they might not come back. And you'll have to live with that choice for the rest of your life. Make sure it's a choice you can live with. Before I end this, I want to say one more thing. To everyone who's served, who's lost someone, who carries the weight of decisions made under impossible circumstances, you're not alone. The pain doesn't go away, but it does transform. It becomes wisdom, empathy, understanding. It makes you better at recognizing truth, at calling out bullshit, at protecting the people who come after you. Use it. Don't let the sacrifice be for nothing. And if you found value in this story, if it made you think or feel or question, do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. These stories need to be told, these lessons need to be learned, and the people we've lost deserve to be remembered not just as casualties, but as teachers. Drop a comment below. Tell me your story. Tell me what you learned in your moment of crisis. Let's build a community of people who understand that real courage isn't the absence of fear, but the willingness to act despite it. That real leadership isn't about being in charge, but about taking care of the people under your command. That real honor isn't found in victory, but in how you conduct yourself in defeat. Saint would have wanted that, a legacy that continued teaching long after he was gone. So that's what I'm building here. One story at a time, one lesson at a time, one subscriber at a time. Thank you for listening. Thank you for caring. And thank you for being part of something bigger than ourselves. Stay safe out there. Trust your instincts. Question your orders. And never forget that the people beside you matter more than the mission in front of you. Until next time, this is Captain Daniel Cross, reminding you that when brothers fall, legends are born. But we'd rather have our brothers than our legends. Subscribe, comment, and I'll see you in the next one.